Meghan and Harry, or as I like to call them, Haz and Megz, are on the cover of their once favourite magazine, Vanity Fair, and it is scathing. But although the magazine used to be one of their biggest supporters, things have clearly changed. The article, titled "Inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Big Business Ambitions, 5 years after their royal exit," it quotes interviews from dozens of people who has either worked with the couple, know them personally, or just live in their neighbourhood. The article has been labelled by fans as a hit piece, but I think that there is a little bit more nuance to this. News stories of Megz being a bully, Harry being a lost soul, and their disastrous attempts at making waves in the podcast world have reportedly left the couple distressed. This new article is interesting simply because it's Vanity Fair, a magazine that historically published positive and supportive articles about Meghan and Harry, like this piece from 2017, Meghan Markle, Wild About Harry, which literally opens up with this insanely positive description of Meghan, with her rescue dogs, Bogart and Guy, wagging their tails beside her, a slim brunette with a lightly freckled, glowing complexion and an upturned nose. She looks like the sun-kissed California girl she's always been. Nobody has ever spoken about me like that. No one's ever been that nice about me. It's an 8,000-word article, so I read it for you. You're welcome. Let's get into what's going on with Haz and Megz and get to the bottom of why Vanity Fair turned on them. So one of the major takeaways from the article is that the previous rumors about Megz being a bully might be true, depending on who you ask. Employees who worked with a couple on Meg's now cancelled podcast Archetypes shared behind-the-scene details of how the podcast came to be and what it was actually like working on it. A former Spotify employee said, quote, "They had this idea to do a podcast because they knew celebrities did them, and that the pair didn't do what celebrities do on podcasts, which is turn on the mic and talk. They wanted a big theme that would explain the world, but they had no ideas." It would be 2 years between them signing a deal with Spotify and Archetypes actually coming out. When it did, it wasn't super well received, and the couple's deal with Spotify is currently no longer. The former Spotify employee also said, "Archetypes was complicated as a podcast concept. You had to explain what the archetype was, then why the woman embodied it, but also how it wasn't true about her. Every episode was like, this is my friend who has been called this archetype, but is not that archetype." Another source who worked in media projects said Megz would agree to provocative ideas before walking back on them. For example, she allegedly really wanted to use the word but backtracked later and decided to say the B word instead. Or an episode that was retitled Human Being. A source shared, every episode got more and more watered down and further away from actual conversation. It felt like very Women's and Gender Studies 101 taught in 2003. Oof, that's a harsh review. But look, I'm gonna be real, I don't know why we thought they would be good at podcasting to begin with. I mean this in a nice way. Megz is an actor, so there's transferable skills there. Harry's done a lot of public speaking, so again, a lot of transferable skills there, but they have no qualifications that show they would be good at coming up with content ideas for a global audience. Not in a mean way. So them just being kind of at podcasting, is it that bad? If it was illegal to make a bad celebrity podcast, LA jails would be full. You know what I mean? I'm just not surprised they weren't great at making a podcast. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that is not at all the most scandalous part of the article. Bad ideas and backtracking aside, multiple sources reported that working with Megz on the podcast was unpleasant. One employee describes it as, quote, really, really, really awful, very painful, because she's constantly playing checkers. I'm not even going to say chess, but she's just very aware of where everyone is on her board. And when you're not in, you're going to be thrown to the wolves at any given moment. Yeesh. Not even going to say chess is that, that's cold. That's quite rough. Ouch. The source further elaborated that the behavior looked like, quote, undermining, it's talking behind your back, it's gnawing at your sense of self, really like Mean Girls teenager. Two people even claimed that employees on Archetypes quit, took long breaks from their jobs, or underwent long-term therapy after working on the show with Meghan. This quote from another source who worked with Meg professionally is barbed wire ass quote. I think if Meghan acknowledged her own shortcomings or personal contributions to situations rather than staying trapped in a victim narrative, her perception might be better. Oh my God, that is cold as that is so cold. But to be fair, and just to be a bit nuanced about it, Megz has been through a lot, okay? Like, she has faced insane press coverage, been torn apart a lot. She's faced some horrible instances of racism that, like, still honestly make me feel unwell. And not to mention her estranged father and siblings selling stories about her to the press who were harassing her. So I'm not surprised to hear that she might have a little bit of a victim complex going on, you know? Like, I've played the victim over way less. That's all I'm saying. Apparently, some Spotify employees weren't sold on the couple from the jump, questioning if they were actually interesting people or good hosts outside of their captivating backstories, which they allegedly did not want to focus on. As one Spotify employee put it, quote, "The thing you're escaping is the reason you're compelling." Ouch. You see what I mean? Scathing. These quotes are ice cold. It's not all totally negative though. One source claimed working with Megz was lovely, and the article does attempt to find reasons why Meg might be acting the way she allegedly does. And, you know, it seems like the couple themselves are still very much in love and super hot for each other, which is good. That's nice. Yay. Great. Okay, back to the insanely scathing and weird. Let's go. Harry is painted as a bit of a lost and lonely soul in the article. He allegedly hasn't been able to make many friends in his post-royal American life. And according to one source, he's, quote, socially marooned beyond his nuclear family. This particular source is said to be close to and love the family. And they said, I think Harry doesn't know what he wants because he grew up in a fishbowl. And so he doesn't know what real life really is. I think he probably wants to be left alone, and I don't think he wants to be famous the way Meghan wants to be famous. This next bit is a little sad, honestly. Pulls on the heartstrings, got me a little bit in the feels. The article suggests that Harry was still holding out hope to reconnect with his family after the release of his memoir, Spare, in 2023. If you don't remember the book or somehow missed it or just didn't get around to reading it, this book had everything. Physical fights with his brother, alleged racist comments from his family, taking shrooms at Courtney Cox's house. It was a wild ride, and it did not show the British royals in a good light. A source recalls a conversation with Harry where they asked if he'd heard from his family since the book release, to which Harry confirmed he hadn't, but he hopes that they would. They said, that's sort of what made me so sad. His hope seemed very genuine, and I was just kind of like, oh no. They believe Harry hadn't absorbed the gravity of what it would mean to sell millions of copies of a tell-all book about a famously insular and circumspect family in the middle of a years-long public relations crisis. This part I did find really interesting. Does it kind of feel like Harry is stuck between a rock and a hard place? Like, he wanted freedom so badly, but now that he has it, doesn't really know what to do with it. His whole life was dictated by rules and tradition, so it must be overwhelming to try and figure out how to live without them. Diana, his mother, famously broke royal protocol and was loved by the public for it. Yet when Haz and Megz followed in her footsteps, the public didn't exactly fall head over heels for them. Speaking of Diana, Harry has explicitly drawn parallels between his wife and his mother before, mainly around safety, fear of paparazzi, and this has led him to be very, very protective of his wife's safety in public. But according to a source in the article, the comparison should stop there, saying, Diana walked amongst landmines. Meghan couldn't even say the word slut. Wow. Like, the quotes in this article, like, are so cold. So with all of that in mind, what happened between 2017 and now that made Vanity Fair change their tune in such a dramatic way? Well, remember that 2017 article from earlier where they described her very, very nicely? According to Valentine Lowe's book, Courtiers, The Hidden Power Behind the Crown, Meghan was unhappy that despite being a positive piece, the focus of the story was on her relationship with Harry. And it turns out that Harry and Meghan allegedly accused Vanity Fair of publishing a racist headline for the article, and they tried to have it changed on digital release. The headline in question, Meghan Markle, wild about Harry, felt too close to I'm just wild about Harry, which is a blackface number from the 1939 film Babe in Arms. Yikes. So it seems likely that the relationship could have soured after that. There's a lot of sources in this article, and it covers the last 5 years of Harry and Megz living in the US. So it's kind of unclear just how long Vanity Fair have been working on this piece. It was obviously supposed to come out at the same time as Meghan's new Netflix lifestyle show, With Love, Meghan, which was set to come out this month, but has been postponed till March due to the LA fires. Vanity Fair decided to go ahead with the February cover anyway, but in the journalism world, it's normal to sit on a big story for a while to drop it at the right time. So it's highly possible they've been working on it since the relationship originally soured all the way back in 2017 and waited till now to drop it. But, you know, despite this article, Meghan's new show is going right ahead. It was fine. I mean, if you're into recipes and stuff, I can't see it being so bad that it's unwatchable. Like, she's charming and she's good at cooking. So maybe this is a better fit for her than a podcast that seeks to explain the world. You know what I mean? What do you think, though? Is the Vanity Fair article just a takedown piece to undermine Meghan's new adventure? Or are these former royals in desperate need of some accountability? You tell me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We have 5 new videos every week. 5 whole videos. Yay!